Hello and welcome to the League of Extraordinary Atheists for Humanism, where we attempt to apply logic and reason to religion and politics. I'm here with my wonderful, beautiful co-host, Christy Santiago.
Guys, happy Friday and welcome to the League. We've been gone for a couple weeks. I'm excited to be back. Mac's excited to be back. Not just excited to be back. There's a lot of news, and I would love to say we have wonderful, happy things, and I'm excited that I get to actually say that and mean that. There are some actual wonderful, happy things. However, there's a lot of other stuff too. And Mac's got I would say it's a topic, but it's not. It's like a whole bunch of topics in the washing machine, getting all. Yes. And that's going to be good. So I'm looking forward to it because that's all his work that I get to learn just like you guys and sit aside. I also get to start tonight with it feels like we rewound and we closed our eyes and spun the YouTube atheist versus not school and religion, or build that wall between church and state YouTube area, and just landed on a video from any year in the last 12, 15 years, because that's what's happening again. This is in Oklahoma. It's a proposed law. The law, or the bill, is SB 1161. That's SB 1161 if you would like to look it up. It would allow fundamentalist Christian preachers to teach specifically the KJV. We know that's the King James Version. And this Bible, they want it to be taught in school. And it would be creating an entire new venue for childhood indoctrination. They want this book only. And at first I was kind of like, I agree that all of these ancient mythical books should be taught. We teach about Thor and the Celtics. We need to teach about even more. It would be awesome. We are here in North America and we not teach about our native indigenous peoples, their creation stories. How much closer to home are those stories than these biblical stories? Well, they would like not a teacher, someone who is going to come at it as literature, as learning what we can learn from the people of the time who put together this book and their reasons for it, all those wonderful things. No. They would have a preacher, a theologian come in, a pastor. Of course, it's like Southern Baptist. The King James Bible is the Southern Baptist favorite. I'm sure that there are a congregation here or there. I'm not blanket statementing. That's not a word, but I made it one. But it is the church of choice of Southern Baptist and many other of the fundamentalists. So essentially, they would be bringing in a pastor or a preacher. It would be an elective. However, the Bible would be taught as if everything in it is inherently true. Now, that sounds terrifying. It's not passed. It's not going to pass. However, like a lot of bullshit laws that we see being proposed and the fear that comes with them, such as the heartbeat bill, what happens is all of the doctors who provide such care immediately stop because they do not want to see the inside of a jail. And so even though the bill hasn't passed, they're terrified of it coming up because it can still be enacted. People don't really know what to do. And now with this, the being talked about, being a bill that's being proposed, the library would get the books at the school, these King James, The children would each have one for their class. It would be the textbook of that class. I'm sorry, no, I'm 100% against this. There should be a wall. I'm for building that wall. I'm for having Trump pay for it. And I want it between church and state.
Yeah, and I agree. Like it's pretty blatant in our Constitution. Like a lot of like this is what one of the like pot calling the kettle black kind of things where like
Yeah.
where Republicans specifically say that they are for defending the Constitution, and that clause is super duper in the Constitution is keeping religion and state separate.
Yes.
And
Completely.
I'm for that on both sides. Obviously, like we bring this up a lot, but it bears saying it again. Is like I'm okay with churches not being taxed as long as they stay out of politics. But if you want to have any kind of political say,
Yes.
then you should be taxed because you're not actually separating anything.
This is happening. Go to YouTube, any one of you, and type in any state in the South, any state. Oklahoma preacher tells congregation who to vote for. Oklahoma or Georgia pastor talks politics at pulpit. Any of these words, and you will find umpteenth number of them doing these illegal, constitutionally, blatantly illegal things, but no one's going to do anything about it because they're the good guys by definition in this country, even though it's illegal. And these same asshats will spout off about we need to go back to how the Constitution and how the Constitution what? We need to follow the Constitution. Right. Follow which parts of it? Because you're not. And these same asshats will say, well, have you read it? Yeah. And then these same asshats will say the whole thing. Like, I mean, I've read bits and pieces, but the whole thing. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, they vote. I really hope everyone who hears this that I don't come off as uppity or educated or well, educated would be good, or looking down my nose. Go online for free and read the Constitution. Go to thecapital.org online and order your free Constitution. It's the tiny little thing will come to your door. Go to the library and read it. It's if you haven't read the whole thing and part of your group, Oath Keepers, I'm talking to you, is about the Constitution, but you haven't read it. This is what this whole putting the Bible in the church is by a group of people who want to go back to the founding fathers and the way that they created a Christian nation, not knowing anything about our founding documents. Oh, obviously.
So to make this conversation just a little bit wider and to make the point a little extra clear, I'm very much pro Second Amendment, right? I'm sorry, not second. I just fucked that up right off the bat. First, yeah, First Amendment, free speech. I'm also for the Second Amendment for the most part for now, but I also think there should be caveats, right? What's it mean to be armed?
It could be interpreted just like the Bible. The Second Amendment can be interpreted.
It's too vague.
It's so open. Yes. Yes.
It's too vague. But well, I do like the big
no girl ever said that, but go ahead.
So the First Amendment is where you get free speech, and if you pair that with the separation of church and state, which is really easy to do because it's all constitutional to do that, people who want to push New King James being read in classrooms for the kids have to realize that every other religion has the right to do that. Like we see these cases happening over and over again all throughout the U.S. where the Church of Satan comes out and puts up what is it, baby Bartholomew or something like that,
Right.
next to the manger, and a lot of Christian communities freak out and like, what are you doing? You can't do that. And like, that's our point. You can't do that. Like, you have to take it down. We'll take ours down as soon as you take yours down. How's that for a deal? Like, it has to be separate and it has to be fair because everyone has the freedom of speech and everyone has the right to religion. And if you don't want someone else's display, then you can't display your own.
Right.
If you force yours, you should expect and accept someone's going to push theirs just as much. Like that's just how it should be. That's what fair is.
And if I see the 10 Commandments statue, I want to see a Baphomet statue so that I can explain to children around me why we have those.
Yeah, I call him Bartholomew. That's what his friends call him.
Yeah, good old Bart.
Bart.
Here's Bart.
Yeah.
I miss my mom.
That was short and sweet, and that was good. Did you have any more on that topic?
There were, I mean, just nuanced bull crap. I want to add, I sent it to our admin on Twitter, so either one of you two can go to Twitter and share in our chat and underneath our video in our doodly-doo. It is the source. It is a video by the friendly atheist, Hemet Meta. On this particular topic, it was released today, and I think it would be a great accompaniment to what we just talked about. It's laid out.
The video is in the description down below.
Yes, and then I really love. Of course, I watched it after I was done. I said, oh, he's filling in on this. Also, you can go to ffrf.org and read their articles that they have about this particular situation. And I did want to do that actually. So here we go. A proposed Oklahoma law, the one we're talking about, would allow preachers and the KJV Bible in public schools. The bill creates a new pathway for religious indoctrination, says Hemet Meta. I'm writing my usual post on Substack. Now, me reading this will not take away from his content on YouTube that he released today. It accompanies. It's beautiful to have all the information together. He says, I'm putting this out without a paywall while I wait for Only Sky to launch in early January. If people want to follow them, that's why I'm reading that part. Only Sky is where you will find him. Sign up early. That's awesome. In the meantime, he would appreciate it if we would continue to read for free. A proposed law in Oklahoma would allow fundamentalist Christian preachers to teach the King James Version of the Bible in public schools, creating a new venue for indoctrination altogether. The SB 1161, pre-filed on Monday by State Senator George Burns. Think about The Simpsons and Mr. Burns. Yes, exactly. This law would amend the existing law to require an elective Bible course to use only the King James Version of the Bible and excluding all others, i.e. one that Catholics typically do not use, but fundamentalist Baptists love, while also expanding the possible teachers for this course to include clergy members. who have no background whatsoever in education? And do you want clergy people around your children? It would also require any school offering this course to have a copy of the King James Version Bible in its library. To put it another way, Oklahoma already gives public schools the opportunity to offer elective courses dealing with the Bible's impact on literature, culture, and more. I agree with this, but I think every single major religion should be in this course. Still not satisfied with that, these Bible thumpers, Burns wants to create a pathway for Christian fundamentalism, specifically in public schools, and this is how he plans on doing it. The history of this course. In 2010, this is when this started getting serious. Oklahoma passed a law that allowed public school districts to offer high school students an elective course teaching students about the Old Testament, the New Testament, or both if they chose. The newly created section 11-103.11, the Title 70, made clear that such a course would abide by religious neutrality. And those religious neutrality rules would be followed, not endorsed. There'd be no favor to promote this religion or disfavor or to show hostility toward any particular religion or non-religious faith or religious perspective. They say all that, however, they're only teaching fundamentalist Christianity through the King James Version Bible. So, grain of salt? No, it's like a salt lick at this time. We're like, ah. In English, that meant that this was not church. Teachers could not say the Bible was true. The focus on the Bible's content and impact on culture could be studied. That wiggle room made it harder to go after in court, and several states have similar statutes on the books already, if not in the making right now, guys. The class would also have to be taught by someone certified to teach social studies or literature. Okay. Importantly, that law also made it clear that students, quote, shall not be required to use specific translation as the sole text. That any Bible will do. However, the law wasn't without its problems. In 2014, the Oklahoma, this is 4 years later, in Oklahoma, one Oklahoma school district adopted a specific Bible curriculum developed by Hobby Lobby president Steve Green. When the Freedom from Religion Foundation got a whiff of this and got a copy of the proposed textbook of the course, they alerted the district that the content, quote, showed a clear Christian bias, treated the Bible as historically accurate and true in all respects, and made theological claims. Of course, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Yes, the district dropped the course due to the legal liabilities. The district cited the fact that Hobby Lobby wouldn't agree to provide legal, listen, this is why Hobby Lobby dropped it. Hobby Lobby wouldn't agree to provide legal coverage to the school district in the event of a lawsuit as one reason for rejecting its curriculum. So the school said, we'll do this, but when FFRF and mothers and fathers and grandfathers and other organizations start suing us, are you going to cover the legal fees? And they're like, well, Jesus, who? Well, yeah, I'm Jewish. A grifter's going to grift, you know? The point is, the 2020 law, despite the clear language against religious indoctrination, wasn't going to stop Christians from trying to promote their religion in public schools anyways. In response to that controversy, a proposed bill in 2015 would have shielded all school districts from lawsuits regarding the Bible class. That bill, thankfully, didn't go anywhere. The proposed bill. The current bill would modify the existing law in ways that just raise all kinds of fucking red flags, guys. As was said earlier, the changes underlined in the official bill text include, here we go, requiring the King James Version of the Bible to become the official text for the course, basically pushing one particular version of the Bible on all students, even though plenty of Christian denominations, not let alone in this area, don't use the specific text. Other texts would be acceptable for use in class, but not as a replacement to the King James Version. So when you are tested in this class and your answer came from a different version, you will fail. Here's the next one. Changing the teacher requirement to allow an ordained preacher or ordained preachers with zero educational training to teach the course, which offers zero education or educational benefits to students. They could have just ended it there. But creates a way for church leaders to get inside the classroom. The next one, forcing districts offering these courses to carry the King James Version of the Bible in their libraries, effectively micromanaging the job of school librarians who already have systems in place to decide which books they need and which books they do not. There is just no reason to make any of these changes other than promoting a fundamentalist form of Christianity in our public schools paid for by our public taxes. There's zero educational benefit, and that's for damn sure. It says it right here in the article. That's for damn sure. This is the sort of bill you'd only propose because you live in a predominantly Republican conservative state where a predominantly Christian nationalism is just a way of life, not because you actually want to help people. With no other religion would any of this be considered. Let's flip-a-flop a few things. So Islam wants to come in, and the Quran is the only book, and it has to be the exact copy that the Wahhabi Saudi Arabian.
Wahhabism?
Yes, it has to be that version only.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? They would, yeah. Yeah.
No, we can only sell them weapons. We can't.
Of course.
We can't look at their ideology.
We can only sell them the most lethal weapons with armor piercing.
Is a lethal weapon 1, 2, 3, or 4?
Right. God. So this is the sort of bill you'd only propose because you live, like I said, in those predominantly Christian nationalist and white, and your way of life is very accustomed to these situations. Not saying a blanket statement, and there aren't one or two, because there are people on the internet that will say, I'm not one of those and you're wrong about everything else. So let me just caveat that. With no other religion would any of this be considered, like I just said. And I agree, Mac agrees. I'm sure we all agree that Hinduism, nationalists of any type of religion that was not Christianity would make them, it wouldn't happen. It wouldn't happen. It's also the logical conclusion of having this kind of Bible as an elective type of class at all in public schools. Whenever they're proposed, church/state separation advocates are quick to warn about how the classes are part of a larger right-wing plan to inject religion into our public school systems. Lawmakers often try to calm the criticisms with caveats about how the classes must be taught objectively, even though there are plenty of stories about how teachers have crossed that line. But you can see from the initial versions of this particular law that there are passages that ought to alleviate critics' concerns. Burns doesn't care about any of that. He's doing exactly what all the critics said the Christian right would do. He's trying to get preachers in the classroom, and his personal brand of Christianity, his Christianity, he wants adopted as the proper form of Christianity for everyone. What Burns said. As of this writing, Burns hasn't said anything publicly about this bill, as far as I can tell. His official Facebook page hasn't posted any updates about it. Ironically, his campaign page from last year includes this post about how he's the husband of a teacher and a strong supporter of public education. And it's going to be hard to see, but it is a tweet of his that says, as the husband of a longtime Oklahoma teacher and a supporter of public education, I will never support a bill or budget that shortchanges our rural schools. Public education is a long-term investment in the future of our economy and our society. Never mentions the children. Cutting and defunding threatens our future far more than our growing debt. I, George Burns, am your public education strong choice for State Senate District 5. And then vote for him, blah, 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 and some of that.
So, like, something I want to address there.
That's a good.
Is when people say that they're a strong advocate for education, that means anything.
Yes, it does.
It's just so vague. I'm for education, but does that mean I'm for public schools or charter schools or homeschooling or the New King James Version being taught in the Bible, or just science, or just reading only, but people should be really good readers? Like, it is very, very vague.
Yeah.
And that's all, like, you just repeated that like 3 times in a statement. I'm for education. I'm for education. My wife's for education. She teaches people.
Yep.
I'm
a feminist.
That's an annoying thing.
So I don't want my wife to work or have her own, but I support her rights to be at home stuck. Like, like I just, yes. We live in an upside down world, definitely.
But if he even said that, if he even said, I for education, so I. But he didn't.
But he didn't.
And
actually, where you are right now, caveats to, if he actually supported public education, then putting non-educators in the classroom to teach a specific form of religious indoctrination wouldn't be on the agenda at all. But he's a Republican promoting conservative Christian nationalism, and it is what they do, no matter what they say to the contrary. Also worth noting is that Burns is a member of the LEAH Baptist Church, which says very clearly on its own very website, check this out, guys, the King James Version of the Bible shall be the official and only translation used by this church. So this MF Burns isn't proposing his bill because it would be good for the students he cares about, which you saw earlier, listened earlier. He didn't even mention the children in his bill. He's doing it because it would be good for his church, and everyone knows church's numbers are dwindling. Burns was first elected to the state legislature in 2020 in a comfortably red district after he beat his Republican primary opponent by a scant 22 votes out of 4,100 cast in that race. It's such a small area where he lives, I'm not saying that the other guy wouldn't have been much different, but elections matter. A request for Burns to comment, Hemet Mehta asked him for a comment, and it went unanswered. So that's all I have to say about that complete topic. Our lovely bill about teaching about the Lord in our schools as if it's a factual thing. Well, then I want to learn about all of them, and how cool would it be to, throughout the years, learn each different ones. There's two, you learn one each semester. And let's please put in the First Nations of this world, the First Nations of Australia, the First Nations of the Congo, the First Nations in Brazil, in the rainforest, in the Amazon, America's First Nations, Canada, all these people that have always been on the land. Let's put their creation stories and their spirituality in it, because we're going to lose it forever. And then I won't be able to learn about it because it will be gone. I think that giving our students as a society, as a people, the knowledge of all of these creation stories and why they believed them and how it helped them understand what was going on from a different point. You're stepped back and you're being able to, it just gives you this perspective that I wish I would have had, because then when the Jesus story was coming to my brain, I would have been able to pick up like, oh, that happened here too. And then this, and that was a Virgin Mother on December 25th as well. And then there's another myth. And like, this is so cool. It would have been different.
It's fun to like tie those together and like
right.
see them.
And
when you only hear one story,
it wouldn't have been sad like how it was for you and I, like, oh my God, we've been lied. It would have been exciting. What other ones do this, and how cool that there's still people that believe it. Like our friend Ocean Keltoy, he believes in gods that most people don't. Thor and Loki and Freyr, and it's fascinating, and we're doing our humans a disjustice by not teaching them all the knowledge we can on religion and limiting it to a version of the Bible that was written for a king that had no problem cutting off a wife's head because he found a new lover.
That happens all the time.
Yeah, I was just saying, Stacy and I, if you see a new one, it's because her head rolled.
Well, after heads have rolled, are we ready for the next topic?
Yes, I'm super excited about you.
About me?
Is it me or is it you?
It's you again. It's you again as the order.
Okay. Oh Lord, you guys. This one. Whew. Make me drool. Okay, so we're gonna go to democracy, Republicans.
We're gonna give you all of the attention at the beginning of the show. And then we're gonna give you all the attention at the end.
There is a wonderful writer, journalist, investigative journalist. His name is Ari Berman. A-R-I is his first name, last name Berman, B-E-R-M-A-N. Very simple to spell. I would like for you guys to be familiar with him and read some of his work. He wrote the book, Give Us the Ballot, The Modern Struggle for Voting Rights in America. It is heady and overwhelming and almost like we're never going to get out reading that book, but he doesn't leave it like that. He doesn't. He has a lot of things that we can do that are being done, that have been done successfully, not just in other nations, but here as well. So give that book a go. He calls what's happening right now the greatest rollback of voting rights since the Voting Rights Act was passed in 1965. He also says it's the greatest attempt to reduce the strength and power of the people. And when he says that, he means especially the people who are not white. The most extreme gerrymandering throughout these same very states is the worst since the Voting Rights Act was passed in 1965. he just wrote something, and it is so spot on. The name might be clickbait to some people who think that you shouldn't be, using clickbaity things, but to me, I don't feel that at all. Titled The Coming Coup: How Republicans Are Laying the Groundwork to Steal Future Elections. Now, if you're like me or educated, you know that there are more than just military coups. What we see on TV and movies, those are military coups. That is not going to happen here. It's going to be a self coup. It just is. Coups are different. Off the bat, I could name 19 different coups, and there's more than that. The definition of what would have happened if the election didn't get certified and Donald Trump was able to send that letter out to everyone saying that, now he's the president and everybody fell in line, that would be a self coup. There's many different ways. So this is The Coming Coup: How Republicans Are Laying the Groundwork to Steal Future Elections. And Democrats too. Democrats are nearly out of time to stop them. And I wish he would have said the people are nearly out of time to stop them. Fight disinformation, guys. That's what I want to start with. Be media literate. Okay. So that means that even though you might trust me, fact check everything that I say. Fact check everything Max says. It's the only way that we're going to know that the things that we know, we'll know that we actually know them instead of just think them or believe them. And that makes a really big difference. A week before the 9th anniversary of her son's murder, Representative Lucy McBeth, Democrat of Georgia, discovered that Republicans had radically redrawn her district to oust her from Congress. A political novice, McBeth had become a leading gun control advocate after her 17-year-old son, Jordan Davis, was shot by a white man in 2012 in an altercation over the volume of rap music. She went on to stage one of the biggest electoral upsets in Georgia's recent history. We covered that. I talked about it. When she became the very first Black person to represent the state's that's 6th district, Newt Gingrich's home turf for 20 years. Her victory exemplified Democratic inroads in formerly red states like Georgia and the new power being exercised by communities of color in the rapidly diversifying South. But those gains are quickly being erased by the GOP through a toxic combination of gerrymandering, voter suppression, and election subversion that together pose a mortal threat to free and fair elections. Oh, I can't take the free and fair election part seriously, but what we have left of our elections. Georgia is a microcosm, there we go, of the extreme tactics Republicans are using across the country. So we can look at this area and see what's happening and understand it on a smaller scale of what's happening across the nation. What can appear as a series of seemingly disconnected state level skirmishes is in fact part of an insidious, and I mean insidious, national strategy that goes far beyond previous efforts to suppress and undermine Democratic influence. Fueled by this big lie that will go down in history, this effort picks up where last year's insurrection left off by putting in place the pieces to steal future elections by systematically taking over every aspect of the voting process. Oh, okay. Over the course of 2021, 19 states passed 34 laws making it harder to vote in this nation. The greatest rollback of voting access since the passage of the Voting Rights Act in 1965. Those changes include more than a dozen GOP-controlled states passing new provisions to interfere with impartial election administration, while Trump and his allies aggressively recruit Stop the Steal-inspired candidates to take over key election positions like Secretary of State offices and local election boards in major battleground states. Quote, what we're seeing is a multifaceted, multi-level attack on American democracy, says Colorado Secretary of State Jenna Griswold, chair of the Democratic Association of Secretaries of State. Macbeth's district is a striking case in point. Under his new redistricted map crafted by Georgia Republicans, so her new map, she's a Democrat, redistricted, redrawn, gerrymandered by Republicans. Her diverse suburban Atlantic seat, where moderate white voters joined an influx of Black, Latino, and Asian American residents, which means America. It was a diverse America. They all got together to elect her. Would now stretch all the way to the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains, with Republicans adding 3 deeply red and predominantly white counties and getting rid of all that beautiful diversity. Dorset, Dawson, and Cherokee, where Donald Trump won 70% of the vote. So Forsyth is infamous for forcing its more than 1,000 Black residents to leave after a Black man was lynched in 1912. Her district would go from one that favored Biden by 11 points to now one that Trump would have won by 15 overnight. One of the most drastic transformations in any district in this nation. What we're seeing is a multifaceted, multi-level attack on American democracy, guys. After the map passed the legislature on November 22nd, Macbeth decided to run in a neighboring district held by Democratic Rep. Carolyn Bardo that absorbed some of the most Democratic parts of Macbeth's old district. Quote, I refuse to let Georgia's Governor Brian Kemp, the NRA, and the Republican Party keep me from fighting. End quote, Macbeth told the Atlantic.
I think part of my New Year's resolution was to take a shot every time I heard Brian Kemp's name.
Yeah, it's important.
And I have to shoot a shotgun at something I shouldn't.
Yeah, like the tide or a hurricane.
Yeah. I really feel like I need a drink after hearing that name.
Good. Well, good. I refuse to let Georgia Governor Brian Kemp, the NRA, or the Republican Party, to keep me from fighting, Macbeth told the Atlantic Journal Constitution in announcing her candidacy. But even if she wins a messy primary against Bordeaux, because it's going to be so hard, Democrats will have lost a House seat in 2022 in a state that is trending blue. Here's winning on a platter. Democrats still fuck it up. Well, if it's still trending blue and communities of color will have less political representation because of the gerrymandering, even though they account for all of the state's population growth over the past decade. Moreover, because of the new districted maps, Republicans are set. This is going to kill you guys. Republicans are set to control 9 of the 14 congressional districts because of this gerrymandering in a state where Democrats won the presidency and 2 Senate seats in 2020 because of cheating. A similar outcome is being replicated in other key battlegrounds like Ohio, North Carolina, Texas, where Republican legislatures pass redistricting maps that will hand their
Hard to say.
party between 65 and 80% of the House seats in states where Biden narrowed the GOP 2016 advantage. Though Democrats are faring slightly better in the redistricting process overall, compared with the last decade, these extreme maps in the GOP-controlled swing states, combined with Biden's sagging approving ratings, will likely help Republicans, conservatives, or the don't tread on me people pick up enough seats to retake the U.S. House in 2022 and lock in dominance of state legislatures for the next decade or so. And make no mistake, people, if Republicans prevail in rigging the 2022 election, they'll be even more emboldened in 2024. And that line they drew and danced all over and crossed and still won, they're going to keep drawing more and more and more and moving that goalpost, especially if Trump is on the ballot. The lies of a stolen election propagated by Trump and exploited by Republican lawmakers who know better are now being used to lay the groundwork to sabotage elections for real, saying things like democracy is bad and republic is good. This is scary, guys. They're prepping people for democracy bad. Their end game, guys? Well, President Joe Biden asked rhetorically during a major speech in Atlanta on January 11th, quote, to turn the will of the voters into a mere suggestion, something states can respect or ignore, end quote. Go ahead.
I would just like to point something out real quick. There's not a lot of good that comes from watching the prequel trilogy of Star Wars, but it is a good example of how a republic is a democracy. They talk about politics a lot in Star Wars.
Well, there can be republics that aren't democracies. Like the Romans were a republic, but they weren't a democracy because only the heads of states could vote. Like as of right now, we're actually not a democracy because Guam and people who live in Puerto Rico who can join our military, who are American citizens, cannot vote unless they're on mainland. There's a lot of things that keep us from being a full democracy.
Right. We're not a full democracy.
Right. We're a representative democracy inside of a republic.
Yes. But the point is a republic and a demacracy don't conflict. They don't conflict
perfectly together.
It's not even that they can conflict really. It's just they don't, because they're not on the same. It's like title and like subtitle.
Right, but republic and unfettered capitalism can perfectly get along. That would cause fascism. Unfettered capitalism and democracy cannot. They can't, because so those are a couple little tidbits of food for you to think about.
Yeah, those are good points.
To turn the will of the voters.
Hey, hold on, Christy. I can't see your jawline. You're too low.
Okay, I'm gonna stand up. There's only.
Okay. I didn't know if you can move your camera or not, but that's okay. You're good.
I'm gonna stand up.
Okay. Okay.
To turn the will of the voters is into a mere suggestion, something states can respect or ignore, end quote. This isn't just about the normal ebb and flow of partisan politics. It's a test whether a party that is deadly serious about ending American democracy as we know it will regain control of our democratic institutions. Quote, the insurrection, the gerrymandering, the voter suppression, the attacks on professional election officials, the attacks on science, on scientists, on facts, on real news. All of this puts our democracy at risk to a degree we have not seen since the Civil War. Former Obama administration Attorney General Eric Holder said. And then his last quote is, "That's how serious this is."
So let me ask you a question, and the question might not be familiar, but the cadence should.
Okay.
How do you know there was a civil war? Were you there? You may continue.
How do you know there was a Jesus then? Were you there?
Were you there?
Were you there? Oh, oh. So that journalist, Ari Berman, check him out. If you want to listen to Amy Goodman, talk to him today. Here's the thing. Ari Berman has been talking about this specific thing I just talked about for a decade. He has been sounding the alarms for a decade. If you go look up his name, it's 10 years ago, 9 years ago, 8 years ago, 7 years ago, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 2 years ago.
Last week.
Yes, last week, 2 weeks ago, yesterday, 3 days ago, all saying the same thing. There is this coup that's going to happen. It's not going to you're not going to recognize it as a coup. They're already doing it. They're already putting it out there. And if you say it enough to people who are just not educated enough, and I don't mean that in a degrading way, they're just not.
You don't know what you don't know.
You don't know what you don't know. And if you start hearing democracy is bad, and I've heard this, you can go to YouTube and type in woman thinks democracy bad, and doesn't understand it at all. She says, well, democracy is the me, I jealous, and republic is for everyone. So I want the republic. I'm like, oh my God, here we go. They're getting ready to spread the democracy is bad. And if enough people hear it, come on, people think communism is a totalitarian dictatorship where nobody owns anything. Like, that's.
They think that
the Communist Party of China, they're more capitalist than we are right now. The only thing is they have lots of protections and things for people to fall back on. And I am not saying that they are a benevolent government. I'm just saying, quit lying. They beat
us in some things, right? And we beat them in others.
And a lot of, yes. Yeah. And we should work with them so that we can learn those things too. They're hearing patents, not us.
I agree with that, but I also think it deserves to be caveated that yes, I think we should work with China, especially market-wise, as we do. But we should work for ourselves. We should work for ourselves a little more. We're outsourcing too much work, and we need to do more things here.
We need to create things here. Yes.
Yeah, and this is going to come back up in my topic here soon. But if you think about it here, this kind of gets back to Jordan Peterson. Before you go clean up someone else's mess, or tell someone what to do, clean your room first.
Right.
And America doesn't do that. As a country, we don't clean our room first. We're just worried about everyone else's fucking messy room, and we're like, look, it looks like a bomb went off in here, and you know what? I need to set off a bomb in here. And it's not as funny as it looks like or sounds. But yeah, I was thinking about that today a few times. It's just like America just needs to read a Jordan Peterson book, and I don't even like Jordan Peterson. He just has a good point.
Kindling. If you go camping, use it as kindling.
Say what?
Use it as kindling. Yes. If you go camping,
he has some good points. When it comes to psychology, but when it comes to philosophy, well, yeah.
I'm just being hyperbolic.
If people just gave his art a chance.
If he would have just been shown unconditional love and told that he was a good painter, the whole world would have been different.
Maybe. We'll
I'm
never
gonna
know.
water. My kitty cat just spilled mine, but continue talking. I'll be able to hear you.
Yeah. And Lord Bryant, thank you. Yeah. Jordan Peterson's advice, color me shock. But no doubt, don't go helping people if you can't even help yourself. And that, yeah, that's exactly the point that I was making. Again, there's so much that I disagree with when it comes to Jordan Peterson. Honestly, like, and I don't like to say this too often, but I think he has a little bit of like he got when you listen to him get into like a really deep conversation, it just seems like something's wrong with him because things just don't click. Like he just contradicts himself over and over, and he dodges questions in such a way that like he does it by default. Like something's at the back of his neck, like shocking him if he answers a direct question. Like don't know what it is, but it's just like it looks really problematic, and it's a little unnerving and almost funny. But yeah, well, I want to wait for Christy for just a moment here before I move on to the next topic. Where Bryant says self-improvement goes a long way. I appreciate Lord Bryant that you're here because you're asking me a lot of questions tonight. I haven't been in the chat so much in quite a while, so I expect a lot of questions while I'm doing my presentation, monologue, whatever. But I can't read two things at once, so I'll just have Christy try to keep your questions or comments in order, or anyone's. So I think we can go ahead and move on to the next topic. I'm going to take a drink. If you don't have a drink, grab a drink. This topic will be cringy for all of us and depressing for all of us and a little funny for all of us and a trip for all of us. So grab yourselves a drink. I'll give you 10 seconds. Don't mind my water chaser. Drinking responsibly, you got to stay hydrated. All right. Let me scroll up on my notes here. Okay. Christy, I waited long enough. I'm starting. Okay. So my topic here, and I can't see the YouTube feed because it was making my screen go bonkers bananas. But what I have written is the state of politics, economics, and information during a pandemic, namely COVID-19. So I want to start this conversation tonight with a question that I want to ask each of you listening, and hopefully we get a few more views on this later. If you guys have anyone who likes listening to 2-hour-long shows, and doesn't necessarily agree with us very often, or you don't think that they would, this is a good video to share because I am going to try to reach across the aisle a little bit and reach more ears and try to give credit and thoughtfulness where it is due. So, and yes, Wesley, we're live. Welcome. All right, so moving on to the question that I want to ask you all tonight. Do you believe in free will or determinism? In other words, do you believe that every person makes their own choices? Everyone is held completely responsible for their actions and their beliefs. And and how they come to conclusions, or determinism, where it's more like you believe in fate. And I'm sorry, I don't want to explain this to everyone. Most of us here in the group understand what free will and determinism is. But yeah, do you believe that, like, we don't necessarily get a choice, we just have the illusion of free will, and we can't really help what we do or say or believe, because everything that we've experienced up to this moment kind of decides what we're going to do next and how we're going to react to information and news and situations that we are all brought to. Again, I just want you to think about this, keep this in mind as we go through my topic tonight. And I have a second question for you. Do you like to attack people or positions? So my subtopics in this, obviously, are politics, economy, and information, and conversations is where I want to end on this. I have a few different tabs open and things that I want to share. But I think I'm gonna have to start with the economy, which I didn't plan on, but it makes the most sense. So I want to share a little bit of information just to kind of catch everyone up, and I hope that my information is up to date enough to share. But to me, tonight, giving you guys information that is 100% accurate as far as numbers go, it's not that important. It is important in the long run, but for what I want you to keep in mind, it's not as important. But feel free to correct me anyways. So as far as the economy goes, I want to remind everyone that here in the US, and I have only mostly looked at the US for all of this, so I apologize for all of our viewers abroad, and Nacha specifically. But stimulus is the first thing that I wanted to talk about. The government so far has issued 3 rounds of stimulus checks, and the first one was payment of $1,200 given to low-income households in 2020, and then followed was a second payment of $600, and I think that was it says it was in the beginning of 2021, and I thought it was a little earlier than that, but that doesn't matter. And then we also got those rounds of $1,400 checks. That was supposed to be $1,600 checks, but or I'm sorry, $2,000 checks, or what the fuck ever, because the Democrats kind of came back on their promises. But that's within the point, but not surprising. So we've gotten, let me quickly do the math, like $3,400. And we've also got some child tax credits on top of that, making it more than that, 3,400 that a lot of Americans have gotten. And why I'm bringing this up is because most of us have heard that between this and unemployment, we're ruining our economy here in the US. And I very much so don't think that's the case. And I will give you another example of economy, of why I don't think that is. First off, being, if I can find my notes, because I'm not going in order of which I took them. I guess maybe I didn't save it, and that's okay. So we, Christy, I'm sure you heard the news over the past couple of weeks where about 60% of inflation is just companies being greedy.
Yes.
Corporations
Gambling.
inflating the prices
Yes.
because people are expecting inflation.
Yes.
And it has seemingly been now 60% of our inflation is due to just they can get away with it. The meat packing industry.
They're playing
Sorry,
with
go
other
ahead.
people's money. It's speculation. They're playing with other people's money. And if they think, we can make a lot of money off of that business going out of business, they don't care about the workers, the 401ks. It's almost like a game. And they try to get as many people as they can. If we can all, all the ones that are left, we would be the ones holding the money. If we could, we sell now holding the most and set off this big sell. Like, remember GameStop? I'm probably explaining it completely wrong. What happened to GameStop is what they tried to do. They tried to ruin GameStop with the same shenanigans, the same battle plan, all of it, but it didn't work because they didn't foresee the nostalgic feeling people had for GameStop, and people jumped in and turned it around. This is just a micro of what you're talking about, but
Yeah, this is
with people's money.
so. This isn't, if I'm remembering right. This isn't exactly what I'm talking about. I think this is more like what the Fed is doing right now, what you're talking about. But these companies, the example I have is the meatpacking industry, especially when it comes to beef. What's happening, if you look at the costs and the profits of these companies, is that because people are expecting inflation, they're rising the price of meat, and you see these profits going up because these companies are saying, well, we're expecting to be hit, whatever. But the price of the cattle that these companies are buying from cattle ranchers is actually being driven down. So they're paying less for the product, the beef, and they're increasing their profits, and their profits are going sky high. And that's nothing to do with inflation. That just goes with greed and corruption. And they're not really gambling with anyone's monies. They're just stealing it.
Yeah, they're all in on it together. Like, if we can make this big hoopla about it that it's going to rise, and then I'll sell it to you for lower, and you can, it's all rising, the whole world, so you can make a huge profit, and then on the back end, we'll help each other out. And it's like insider trading, but in different areas, in the farm area, and like actually out on the field. Insider trading, it doesn't just have to be for Wall Street.
Right, but the rush of COVID has really thrown people through a loop. Like we don't understand how to run our economy with this pandemic running rampant.
We can watch other nations who have done it spectacularly
better. Yeah.
And I don't know, use a little from here, a little from there, like the melting pot we are.
Yeah, we should definitely be doing things differently. So I'm sorry, I'm losing where I am all of a sudden. Purple.
Sorry, I see purple in chat. I have to.
He's been here for the past hour. You missed him.
I was talking at first. It's my turn to play
now. Yeah, I'm passing the torch to you. You can be the conversation queen. And okay, so my point is pointing these two factors out in the economy is that we're dealing with a multifaceted situation with the economy. There is corporate greed, there is stimulus, there is unemployment, there's working conditions. people have realized after being off of work during a shutdown that fuck, I hate my job. And fuck, I don't get paid much. Inflation is happening, at least to a point, and it's making it more difficult for people to live. The amount of money, and I'm not sure if you knew this, Stephen, the amount of money that large corporations have made in the past year.
Oh yeah.
Accounts for $2,100 out of every taxpayer's wallet going up in the cost of living.
Yep.
$2,100, and we're being paid more now.
Yes, we will see
going back
trillionaire because of this pandemic. Because of it, the launch.
Yeah. And it's now, again, that's something I want to point out. It's not just because of the pandemic. It's because of the system that we already have in place.
Yeah, it just exacerbates.
That the pandemic exasperates. Yes. So I want to be really careful about being too narrow and hyperbolic with my topic, because that is the point of my topic tonight. Coming down to unemployment rates, about 4 in 10 unemployed workers have been out of a job more than 6 months in the COVID-19 recession. And I don't have a good way to share the graph here, but it is pretty sad. It's gotten up to over 40% unemployment rate. And that's crazy. It's absolutely nuts. And it's not just nuts because while people are lazy when they understand that they don't like their jobs, it's nuts because remember what happened at the beginning of the pandemic. I will grant you, anyone who's more right wing than I am, I will grant you that there are a lot of people out there who don't want to go to work 40 hours a week, let alone 60 or even 30. Because and I will also grant that a lot of those people are lazy. I'll give you that. But at the beginning of the pandemic, a ton of people lost their jobs. They didn't quit. They lost their jobs because they were shut down, because of the jobs that they had, like a lot of service industry jobs. They weren't going to keep their employees because they weren't as important as their profit motive, basically, is what it boils down to. And I'm not being hyperbolic there. It is what it boils down to. They weren't going to pay them leave. They were going to get rid of them. They're restaurant workers. They're non-essential, basically. And then when we were, then if they were going to get any subsidies to stay open, because they were classified as emergency, or what's the word I'm looking for? Essential workplaces. Then they wanted people to come back. And a lot of people didn't want to come back. And a lot of people found remote work because that's almost all there was besides essential work, like grocery stores and service industry that weren't inside dining.
Right.
So the economy turned its back on its workforce. Companies turned their back on the workforce, and people had to find a way to deal with it. Like, I mean, a lot of people died, not just of COVID, but of starvation and homelessness. And again, this is a multifaceted situation. That's why I'm bringing all of this up. People don't want to get back into the same funk that led them to turning out poor, like just waiting for those stimulus checks to come their way because they haven't been employed in like 3-4 months. They wanted something better, and even when they got help from the government, everyone around them says, people taking this money, destroying the economy, slackers, something. It's very degrading. The whole not just economy, but just the whole world that we live in is very depressing when you look at it through these lenses.
Yep.
So
did you get a chance to go over the thing I sent you, the myth of the self-made millionaire?
I did not.
I
Do you want to share a little bit of it real quick?
Yes, if you guys get a chance, it's on a channel on YouTube. The channel's name is Second Thought. The title of this particular video is The
Myth of the Self-Made Millionaire.
The Myth of the Self-Made Billionaire.
I
Even
have heard. I've
know,
listened to it, but
he started from zero out of a garage, right? It was a house that he didn't have to pay taxes or the mortgage on, and his parents gave him a minimum of $300,000 to help start his career. He just wanted to mail books out to people so they didn't have to, which was a great idea. Don't get me wrong. It was a great idea. This was, Kindle wasn't, like the thing yet. I have books. I love books. I haven't started putting all my books up yet. I'm going to have a bigger bookshelf on one side and a bigger bookshelf on the other in order to put my books up. But yeah, I have a few of my favorite dictionary, which is also a thesaurus. Books are important, so I liked his idea, but self-made, really? Self-made. So self-made is high school's over and your parents, like mine, told me well before high school was over, listen, I know you just started high school and people are going to start talking about college, and it was with a heavy heart. I'm sure it was not, I'm sure it broke my mom's heart to have to tell her daughter, college is not an option for you unless for some reason athletically you do something amazing or your grades are so spectacular that you could get help. That doesn't mean you can't go to college. It just means that it would have to be a community college and you would have to work and go. I mean, she was just very realistic. She didn't want me to have like, hey, you can go anywhere you want. That's not an option. She said, or military. And also as a kid, immediately like has, a balloon, not a balloon that's been popped, but a balloon that you didn't tie the knot in and you just let go. And it just, it really just kind of deflated the, like, well, what's the point then? And God, I wish I would have seen it different because I'm still learning and I know more now, which I hope everybody when they're 45 knows more now than they did when they graduated high school. I enjoy learning so much more. Sorry, major itch right here. So much.
And I do that too. I didn't as much when I was younger and when I was in high school. Hated school. I didn't want to go to college.
I just am not a morning person, and I was told that it was not an option. Those two things. You hated school and didn't want to go to college, and you're not alone. You and I, that is more common than the kid who gets to wake up on his 16th birthday and has a brand new, whatever year it is, Jeep with a bow on it for his 16th birthday, knowing that whatever college he wants to go to, if his grades don't make it, his family can, put in a library or a wing or help him get in there. Those, it's not the kid's fault.
No.
But these are massive inequalities in this country, and we say them and talk about them almost as like stereotypes, like a teen movie. There's the rich kid that get the Jeep in the morning, and because it's so normal. It's so normal here. I knew more kids that were gonna have to fight to see a semester in college than I did who absolutely knew without a doubt what college they were going to go to because they're a legacy. You know, my father went to Columbia, his dad went to Columbia, that kind of thing. I have mixed feelings on legacy. I understand why they do it. I think it's kind of cool, you know, if you want to follow in your dad or your mom's footsteps. And however, I draw the line when your grandfather, your great grandfather, and your dad all went to, let's say, Columbia, and now it's your turn, but you just didn't earn it, but you get to go anyway because of legacy. That's where I have a problem, because someone else who really definitely earned it isn't going to go because your family's name has wealth on it. Like that's where,
because money.
Prestigious to me anymore. Now you're just like buying. And you'd rather have the idiot with small hands and orange skin and bad grades because his dad was there. Just for instance, you know.
Always goes back to him. Okay. Okay. Where was I was trying to point out the kind of the state of the union for poor people during COVID, is what I was trying to point out here. The other part that I want to point out is the politics of COVID-19, as in, what do we do about it, right? Like, just initially for just the COVID part, we have lockdowns, we have mask mandates, we have vaccines, we have vaccine mandates, we have private company mandates, government, state and federal mandates. Like there's so many things that we have to look at, and we have to decide what things are best to do to reduce the spread of COVID. And we also have to decide who decides that, right? And we need to look at data that shows us what does that look like in other countries, because we have that data, right? Japan, if I remember correctly, they didn't have any lockdowns. Everybody masked up, kept doing things as usual. They got vaccines out there, and spread went down.
Contact tracing, which is so important. Yes, yeah. It takes a little bit more work.
Yes.
Yeah, you have to employ a few more people on the payroll for the city. However, we're able to follow the contact back to where it started and make sure that it doesn't get out of control. Instead of following it through thousands to find patient one, Aunt Linda got it, and she was with these 3 people over the last 7 days. Yeah. You know, so we can go to those 3 people and find out who they talked to, and maybe people came in contact with them and didn't know. The way they do it is they go let them know, hey, by the way, you've been in contact. What a courteous thing. This country, my fellow brothers and sisters and non-binaries and just fellow humans in general, in this country, we just passed laws in certain areas that if you test positive and are asymptomatic, you can go back to work right then. Yeah. Positive test, says positive. Took a second one just to make sure it wasn't a false positive or a positive and negative. Nope. Again, says I'm positive for, but I'm I'm not feeling anything. Asymptomatic.
You said this country?
In this country, yes, we just passed laws saying if you're asymptomatic, you can go back to work. Even that's insane. What if your coworker lives at home with their elderly grandmother who has an immune system that's compromised? Like, we don't do those things that care about people that we don't know. And that's really sad that we have to know, oh, I know her, I'll help.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty crazy too. And not just because of that example, but also because of the example of when your employer knows that.
Yeah.
It's not that you can go back to work, it's that you have to go back to work.
And think about, what if it's a food industry? What if it's a restaurant? What if it's a Starbucks? And
what
you're
if it's
passing everybody?
Lobster?
Yes. What if it's
because that's something that's happening at Red Lobster right now. Doesn't matter if you're sick or if you test positive. If you can't find someone to pick up your shift at Red Lobster, that's your fault. I mean, you cannot come to work and lose your job.
Yahweh did say to stop eating shellfish. This is the punishment. It was coming. You guys knew it was coming. Heathens, blasphemers.
El Allah Abba Yahweh.
When you step on a bomb, you blast your femur.
Thank you, Christy.
All by myself. Thank you. I'll be here all week.
It was good. So where am I here? Femurs.
Wherever you go, there you are.
Not follow you then. So again, sorry. We have all these choices, right, of how to deal with COVID-19. And it is lockdowns, mask mandates, vaccines, vaccine mandates, and then who can mandate you? The state, federal government, or private companies like your workplace, or just the places that you want to go to shop. These are really good questions, and honestly, I don't know where I stand on all of them. I am kind of on the. I understand where we are now, where the government can't necessarily force you to do that. As far as mask mandates go, I don't think, but a private company can. And I think a private company should be able to do that, because you should be able to decide how you want to run your company, and because it's going to affect your business one way or another. So you have those consequences coming to you again, one way or another, like depending on which kind of area you live in, kind of if it's blue or red, right? Because this is very political. And as far as the government goes, I'm not sure if they should be able to tell you whether or not you should mask up or vaccinate. But that's kind of the next part of the conversation that I want to get into, because there's such a huge disconnect, as everyone knows, everyone here is aware of the argument between pro-vax people and anti-vax people, right? No one's not aware of that. But it's annoying as shit. It really, really is. And it really makes this topic of COVID-19 my least favorite topic to follow. I'm not the best person to talk about COVID to, because I try to stay away from it unless it has to do with the economy. I really don't want to say I don't care about it, but it's not my thing. It's not the thing that I'm interested in following. So, but I do greatly care about epistemology and philosophy. And this is where I want to go with it tonight. Here's another fun fact for you. Let me pull this up. Mint. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't leave it open. I have to reopen it, which is not hard. Okay, I've done it. Mintpressnews.com released an article back in November, actually. And this released the grants that come from the Bill and Melinda Foundation. I'm not sure if you've heard of this, Christy, and I kind of hope you haven't. So it's like fun news for you, because it was fun for me to learn this. And here, because I don't want to read the whole thing, after sorting through 30,000 individual grants, I'm going to repeat that for emphasis. After sorting through 30,000 individual grants from the Bill and Melinda Foundation, Mint Press can reveal that the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation has made over $300 million worth of donations to fund media projects. This isn't very surprising to me or Christy or anyone who follows things like we do. People buy press, good press, right? We know this. This is why CNN is for every war that the US government could ever want to get into, because Halliburton, Raytheon, Honeywell, you name it. They're in the pocket of manufacturers and the stock market. So you can't trust a news source that gets its money from a biased interest. We know this. So that being said, I hope I make everyone second guess what you think about the vaccines tonight, at least the Pfizer vaccine. All right. I'm still firmly in the camp of that the vaccine works as far as it reduces hospitalization rates and death rates by about 90% and up. You are muted, sorry.
And hardcore symptoms as well.
And hardcore symptoms as well. And by that, it reduces the spread.
Right.
When people say that it doesn't, that makes absolutely no sense.
Like, I understand.
If you are reducing your symptoms, which help spread debris and goop from what you touch and what you sneeze or whatever, it reduces the spread.
Right.
And I, you know what? I'm going to get back to that. I'm going to stop where I am because I don't want to go back and forth and make this another 2 hours. So the Bill and Melinda Foundation has, I'm going to copy this right here in the chat. Everyone go ahead and pull this up real quick. And then I just want you to scroll down until your jaw drops. Because I'm not reading all of this. I don't have time to read this. This is a breakdown of how much money, go ahead and open it, Christy, you'll love it, of how much they've donated to special projects, just outright direct media outlets. It's that they're long lists. They're very long lists. And each time that they do this, they're like, hey, look at what Pfizer's doing. We care about what Pfizer's doing. Also, if you look into what Pfizer's doing, it's something that they funded, right? Like the vaccine. And we—
to left, to right, to independent. They get money. Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't care.
No, as long as and this is advertisement. It's paid advertisement, and it's depicted on these news networks as news, right? They're giving you information, for instance, on the Pfizer vaccine, brought to you by Pfizer,
Wow.
and this thing is paid for also by a grant from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. By our normal logic of this show, you can't necessarily trust that source on the information that is being given. And it
this,
fucking sucks.
what you're sharing by Alan MacLeod,
Yeah.
this is a series. He didn't end. This is not like he did some investigative journalism, wrote an article, and moved on. I don't even think this is the first one in this series where he's talking about, it spans more than just, like, each one adds more to the same story. I think there's 3 or 4 of them.
That makes sense because, again, he said after sorting through 30,000 individual grants.
Yes. There might even be more. That's just what I know.
And so many of these sources,
Jesus,
they're good sources. Al Jazeera, PBS, CNN, ProPublica. Like it's everything. He has his hand in everything. And honestly, I need to repeat it. When you're watching something,
we need to print out that list where it's got the name and how much money. We need to print that out and smaller, like this big, even if we have to do double.
5 lists. There's 5 lists just in this.
And just like on biodegradable paper and just drop them from flybys. Like, people need to know about that.
They do. It's very, very important. Because look, this is what bothers me. This story is really important, and I hear almost no one talking about it on mainstream media, obviously, because they're paid off, and also in independent media. It's almost completely silent, and like you have to go online and find the thing. I found this because of Max Blumenthal on Jimmy Dore, and Jimmy Dore has been very unhelpful recently, but I wouldn't have found it if I didn't check up on what he's doing every now and then. And this is why it's important not to only listen to people. And this is my message for people on the left. Echo chambers aren't good.
No.
You miss things because no matter what you think of Jimmy Dore, this is a damn good story.
Right. Yeah, there are many good stories covered on Jimmy Dore.
Yes. And whether or not you're a left winger or a right winger,
right,
you can use this for your side of the argument, because a lot of anti-vaxxers can use this. So that's fine. Good. I want them to. This is a good argument for their side, you can say. Again, I'm interested in the epistemology, and where I want to end this conversation tonight, and I'm going to come back to it a couple of times, is when you're having a conversation with someone that you disagree with and that you want to maybe find common ground with or change their point of view, you know what you got to do first? Find common ground. You have to listen and be like, okay, I'm either ready to fight this person or I need to see where we agree first, so they don't hate me. Hey, Christy's ready to fight, and it makes me incredibly angry.
Mac could really beat people up. Good thing his superpowers are used for defense only.
For defense only. So another thing that I want to point out, besides this Bill Gates story, is there's a rumor going around that the Merriam-Webster dictionary has changed the meaning of vaccine. And I'll read a few things here from this. Vaccine used to be defined as a substance or substances that provides immunity to a specific disease. Reads the text of an Instagram post on November 4th, yada, 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 don't care about that. Now Merriam-Webster has literally changed the definition of vaccine and removed the immunity portion in order to possibly cover for the fact that COVID vaccines don't actually provide immunity from COVID. Moving on, according to the archived version of the dictionary's website, Merriam-Webster formerly said vaccine was a preparation of killed microorganisms living I don't know how to say that word, organisms or living fully virulent organisms that is administered to produce or artificially increase immunity to a particular disease. The new definition of vaccine published in May reads, a preparation that is administered as by an injection to stimulate the body's immune response against a specific infectious agent or disease. Last part of this, the definition of immune response provides a detailed description of how a vaccine actually works and is therefore more specific, scientific, and complete than the more general term immunity. Christy, you're muted, but you look like you want to talk.
I was agreeing with you.
Okay, okay, cool. So I have beef with this as well, because we are in the middle of a pandemic. And if you change the meaning of vaccine in a dictionary, or just, I forget the other, like there was another spot where they changed it. Oh, it was WHO. It was the WHO changed it. You do that, that raises red flags.
It does, especially to people who are scientifically illiterate on just the basic level. They think see, you guys don't even know what's what, and how can I believe you? And yeah, it's
That's
bad.
science trying to improve itself. And when you are scientifically illiterate, it is very easy to feed your own conspiracy theory.
Them, it's science got it wrong. Yeah. When in reality, it's science kept doing those same experiments, right. Even though we got to the conclusion, we kept doing them and throwing in different variables, and then we learned something new and we had to adjust our knowledge.
Right. People take it as a black and white. People take it as a black and white often. So if you're wrong, that means I was right. It's like, no. So we were both wrong, but I was closer to right than you are. Now I'm a little bit closer even still. There's a difference. And that's, I don't want to focus on who's just right and who's wrong. I want to focus on people can use this, right? People I don't agree with. This is a good example of you can't trust the government. You can't trust private companies, because look at what they said when we got stimulus and when they fired us and when this and that. And you can't trust the government because look at the fucking government. Look
Mhm.
at how we were lied into the war on terror.
Mhm.
Look at insider trading now. Look
Martha
at
Stewart.
the last two presidencies alone, how they're handling COVID and how they're handling the economy and the and I don't need to say any more on the government. It's
Right. And none of them will ever face any kind of consequences, as in if Mac and I tried even one of the many charges that they're being tried, we've never seen the light of day again.
no,
These people are
no,
fine.
especially for the insider trading and
Or
and
insurrection
or hiding information.
or crimes or blowing up a general on an airport field. Like, we would never be able to do any of those things.
So let's say even this, because this is very, very relevant to this past month, the lab leak theory.
Yes.
That may very well be true. But we know right now, but we can't have these conversations because our officials are obviously not being honest about it. Let's say Dr. Fauci knows for a fact that the lab leak theory is not true, knows for a fact. He's not acting like it. And he's kind of lying by omission by not being open about his conversations about this in the past.
Can be.
Huh?
I don't think he's allowed to be.
Maybe he's not, but that's another reason why people shouldn't trust the government. If this information's too sensitive or we deem it too sensitive, we already know that we can't trust them because the war on terror. We already know that we can't trust them because the NSA spies on us. We already know that we can't trust them because insider trading. We already know that we can't trust the government because of gerrymandering. We already know that we can't trust the government because they'll give us tax deductions and let the rich get richer and then bring those tax deductions back, tax increases back to us over the next 10 years, yada, yada, yada. You kind of get the picture. They fuck the lower middle classes. This isn't all toxic. More than yeah. This is too perfect of conditions in our political world and our economic world for there not to be conspiracies.
Yes.
And
I can see that definitely.
We have way too many justifications for anti-vaxxers, people who have magical thinking, people who think that Pizzagate is a
Like,
real.
can we let go of Pizzagate? The building didn't even have a basement.
Didn't even have a basement.
Just walk away from that, please.
But at least cover each other's asses so much that anytime something like the definition of vaccine changes, Jeffrey Epstein kills himself. Bill Gates has his money in fucking everything.
I mean, Ghislaine Maxwell just got sentenced. What do you think is going to happen to her in prison when all those moms that are in there who don't get to see their kids are not in there for hurting children? They're in there for, fraudulent checks or
if they find a way to appeal it. That would be even worse.
That's even worse. Yes.
Yeah. The point is, we live in a very diverse world.
For sale.
The country. And we have a system, an economic, political system that just doesn't promote truth at all. Look at Snowden.
Ratings is what it promotes. Ratings.
Ratings. But look at Snowden. Look at Assange. You tell the truth about the government, that's what happens.
Breaks my
And
heart.
so why would you believe Fauci, Biden, Trump, science? Why believe any of it? My point tonight is like, I mean, I feel bad saying it, and I don't want to stop fighting against these bad ideologies, but I don't blame anyone for it. To blame people for having stupid ideas and being gullible and wanting to overthrow the government on January 6th last year, it's reasonable. Given their premises, their arguments are valid. They follow their conclusions. And the only way to fucking fix any of it is to fix the systemic problems. We actually need a better democracy.
We have to admit that there are people, pundits, talking heads who go on TV every single day saying that there aren't any, that they're made up, that it's woe is me, my bootstraps weren't big enough. We have to come to a place as a human, as a species, and say, these are the things that happened. They're factual. Let's talk about them. What can we learn about them? And then where do we want to go? But there's a group of people that are going to show up and say, y'all stupid. None of that stuff happened. How do you talk to them?
You don't talk to them like they're idiots.
Definitely. However, they're not going to listen. And I mean, I'm okay with still trying. But what if they get together and decide that they're tired of the questioning and they're tired of people not believing their crazy conspiracy theories, and they want to take out we're in a very the codes are all higher than they've been in a long time in this country. Right now, for a fact, the number one danger to peace inside the continental United States of America is white supremacy and white power. That's the number one cause of any distress, fear, violence, is white supremacy. They are so terrified because 10 years ago they were 80% of the population. And now they are like 54% of the population in some places, still 71 in other, but that to be equal, like there's 50% white people in this nation and the other 50% make up Black and Asian and Spanish and all these beautiful colors. What are they so fundamentally afraid of? Well, it's simple. Ask them. There's Jordan Klepper asked them. They're terrified that when they are the minority, that all the things that their forebears and forefathers have done, as horrible as it was, that it will be turned back around on them.
Yeah, and I mean, the way that I look at this is like, we are supposed to be like a melting pot of a country, and I think a lot of Republicans even use this argument. We're supposed to be a melting pot, and they think that you just like, we start as tomato juice, and when you're thrown in, you're supposed to become tomato juice too. And they're just desperately terrified to become chili. And like, but that's how it works when you go in a pot. And we don't necessarily melt chili, but I didn't have a better cheese analogy. So this is what we got, and you're welcome. You missed my chili analogy, but it's fine. So I want to go over quickly what we need, what we desperately need. On the left, I want to point out first, we need to make our main focus Medicare for all. We need to take the profit motive out of healthcare, because that takes the wind out of the sails of so many right wingers who believe in these conspiracies. Because if you follow the money, you find corruption, and either side can use that. So we should agree on, we need to get money out of healthcare. We need to get money out of politics. Big Pharma was one that I wrote out here. Big Pharma buys the rights to medications that we've made on college campuses, funded by U.S. taxpayer money.
Every time there's medicine made, not just this time. Yeah. All the medicine made is made by this.
Universities.
Not just universities, taxpayer, like us. Taxpayer like money.
Yeah, it's taxpayer
100% paid. They didn't spend any of their money. The people did. And then the people need that medicine. And that same company is like, $1 million.
Yeah. 40% increase. 400% increase. Doesn't matter. Okay.
We pay more for those medicine guys than people in other countries do.
Yes, we do. And it's sick. The point I want you to take to people in conversation, because trust me, this will work. It's very hard to argue with someone who hates corruption. Remind them, Big Pharma buys rights to medicines that we make with U.S. taxpayer money. And these pharmaceutical companies take those medicines, buy them from us, and then charge us more money for them. So what we should do is make the point, we the people should get a return on investment. The product should be bought, or shouldn't be bought out from under us and sold back to us at an inflated price.
No, they provided for us.
Yes.
Because we paid for them. We even volunteered our own bodies when it came to the human study parts. Not other countries. That's illegal. Here, we did it.
Yeah.
And then that same medicine made by the same company inside our country that our people paid for is sold for $6.62 per month supply. And let's say Sweden or UK, that same medicine is $666 here in the United States that we already paid for. And I know that sounds like, well, that's the most criminal thing I ever heard. That can't be true. That's what we're saying. That's how bad it is. And if you're not, and I guess when you hear stuff like that and then realize it's true, it is a lot. Mm-hmm. It's like we're totally being, it's a little mentally, emotionally, patriotically rapey. And where do you start? And as a regular person, it's easier to say, I don't know if that's true. I have other things. The kids need a bath. Let's go to, it is that big.
Yeah. That's the other thing I was going to write down to talk about tonight is I get on that rant every now and then on this show that we don't have time to care about this shit.
Right.
We don't have time because we live in an economy where time is money and we're all lacking the money. We don't have the time to look at our political system, to look at our economy, even understand what the fuck an economy is. Most people don't understand it. Most people don't know what the fuck politics are in this country. They don't know what the parties are, or what leftism is, or rightism, or that the political compass has an up and a down.
Or there's a difference between National Socialism and socialism. I mean, like day and night difference.
It's there's
Communist Party of China and communism.
You don't know what you don't know.
And the more you find out, the more you realize you have to learn. Every day when I learn more, I'm like, oh, I learned. Oh God, that means I don't know even more.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's a good example of determinism.
Yeah, you have to really want to actually know what's true and do the due diligence and talk to other like-minded people and, hash those things out. Look at each
Or
other's
people, or people you don't agree with, people that aren't like-minded. Because
stuff.
again, like, if you can understand, or if I can get you to understand, I'll say it that way. If I can get you to understand, the viewer, that you need to talk to people where they are that you don't agree with to get them to think differently about what you think. Because that's the only way you get them to think about what you think. You need to tell them they're right. They're right. They're right. Hold on. I think you're right, but for the wrong reason.
Right.
And you only do that when you can explain yourself. Otherwise, hold judgment or let them go. Don't need to fight about everything. We need to be a little more tactful, and we have no room anymore. This is the whole goddamn premise of my whole thing, my whole shtick tonight. Is there's no room for hyperbole. There's none. Absolutely fucking none. And this pandemic, because the vaccine doesn't give you immunity. The vaccine, maybe it doesn't fit the definition of a vaccine. Maybe that should be argued. But what it does do is it decreases the rate of hospitalization and death. Does it reduce the spread of COVID? Yes. Does it stop the spread of COVID? Fuck no, it doesn't. Israel is a great example. Kim Iverson showed this, and she tried to just use it in her own way, and try to whitewash it a little bit, which I didn't like. But she did share the fact that Israel is like 100% vaccinated. The good part of Israel. Sorry. And they've gotten like the second, third, some fourth booster shots. And the spread is wild right now. It doesn't stop. It doesn't stop the spread. Does it reduce it? All other statistics, kind of including that one, shows yes. It reduces it. If you're 100% vaccinated and it doesn't stop the spread, does that mean if you're 100% vaccinated is going to stop the spread?
Right.
Weird, especially when there's a new variant. Of course you would have spread. Of course you fucking would. Because it's a new variant. And it doesn't stop the spread. No one said that. And you can't use hyperbole and you can't misstep on your language. If you catch yourself saying that it stops, you have to apologize to the person that you're talking to. It says it decreases the chance of spreading COVID-19. Because otherwise, people that you are talking to may think in a very black and white, dualistic way and think, oh, he's wrong. It doesn't. I already know that. Can't trust anything else he says. Because
there's no
room.
Right.
No room for hyperbole, no room for mistakes, unless you can correct yourself. Yeah. This is where we are. And that's what I wanted to get across tonight. I was furious. When I heard this Bill Gates thing, because I'm just like, I can't fucking trust anything that I'm hearing about the Pfizer vaccine. And if I can't tell anyone else to trust it. I can't.
Yeah, he's disappointed me many times, many times.
Yeah.
You know, he
I
wrote
just
that,
think
not
the
him,
actor.
Jesus wrote that whole thing on why he can't cure world hunger. Actually, the data's been done, ran over, peer reviewed. We know that if he woke up on a whim, could cure world hunger by himself and still be a 100 billionaire and never even feel it. It's that he doesn't want to, because those people then wouldn't have earned it.
Yeah.
They earned being thirsty till they die. They earn women going out in fields and finding anything to put in between their legs once a month for a week so that they don't attract wild animals because they're bleeding, and their husband or boyfriend or family will not let them in the house because they're dirty. So they have, like, there's so much going on that this one billionaire could change the lives of. And yes, you could say it's not his responsibility. However, I'm also a human. And if I had that much, I would feel like it was my responsibility to at least make such a significant change with it, especially if I would never even feel it on my day to day. Like, that's a no brainer. Let's get this shit done. No grifters. Like, not no homo, no grifting. That would be no grifting, all shirts.
I'm agreeing with Kyle Kalinske a little more when he says that corruption should be tried like murder. It should be one of the worst crimes that we have in this country. You should be locked away for life. Whether or not
one person, think about it. One person is elected by hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people they represent. Those millions of people send in letters and correspondence on how they feel about certain bills. The grand sum of the way they feel means they want that person to vote yes on it. However, that person, their politics are a little different. So they're going to go ahead and vote no, even though their constituents say yes. That's also where we're at right now. I'm sorry, even during George W. they would just bite their tongue and just be like, well, that's what the people wanted. They might not have been reelected, but that's what the people wanted. Like, representative democracy means that you represent the majority of the people, not just the people who you like, pay for your stuff, and are your donors, and you agree with them already. That's not how it works. I don't care if you vehemently disagree with 78% of your constituents, but 78% of them show up and want you to vote a specific way. It's your responsibility now to vote that specific way, because the majority of the people in your hometown want this for themselves. It's frustrating.
Let me ask a rhetorical question for everyone. With what Christy's saying about our representatives and how many people that they represent. This is a good way to think about it, I think, is if you betray one person, like their trust in you or to something that they trusted for you to do, if you betray one person, how much moral responsibility does that hold?
Yeah, that's a good question.
One person.
How many people know, and
yeah. And now times that by 72,000. Now how much moral responsibility? Because even if that was just a little,
or 1.14 million, like let's say Houston, you've got,
or 330 million, right? Like, how much moral responsibilities does that hold? And then if it holds so much moral responsibility, how do you punish it?
Now think about that.
It must be severe.
70 to 90% of the country want specific things.
Yeah.
But those things haven't gone, they're not even going to happen because the 5 multinational corporations, 5, don't want it.
Yeah. and I don't. And here's just another example because I would like to just zoom on and on this point real quick. I don't agree with the way that we punish crime in this country. I think life sentences are crazy. I am for some exceptions for the death penalty, as Christy is not, but I would like to point this out. With the corruption that we have and the lying into war that we have, if the Nuremberg laws were upheld, every president since World War II would be hanged. And I think, and if I was president, I would totally enact this until Congress dealt with it. As long as we have the death penalty in the country, we're going for the priority targets first. Whichever presidents are still alive, and whichever officials help break those Nuremberg laws, like they go to the forefront until the death penalty is gone. Like, as long as we have it, we might as well put the worst offenders at the top of the list. Because think of the moral responsibility.
I'm okay with all that as long as it's the fear. I want them to actually believe it's going to happen. But I'm anti-death penalty.
But you wouldn't want, yeah.
But I would be okay with them going all the way up to the part where they get strapped in and thus going, aren't you glad we don't believe in this because we're humanists? I'm just saying This is where it would be. Yeah, I'm okay with that. That's the amount of power they have over the vast amount of humans is most people that want power should never have it. It's the ones who are like, I don't fucking want all this, but someone has to do it right and look out for the people. Those are the people I want running. And unfortunately, because of Citizens United, money is free speech, and people that are good like that are not going to get the backing and the funding from the billionaires, because those billionaires do not like the message that are coming out these sweet, honest, and noble people's mouths.
Yeah. So that reminds me, you said the millionaires word. There's so much I wanted to cover, but we will wrap it up here in a couple of minutes before Nacho starts telling us to, because it is getting late.
Ooh, and I'm gonna need a drink because I'm like pouring. If you're from America, you've seen Frank's Red Hot. I put that shit on everything. The little old lady.
I thought you were drinking that. I'm like, man, I don't even drink. I come close to drinking it. There we go. Yeah, see, that's why we're friends. That's why we're friends. Okay. It's just one of the 9 reasons we're friends. Okay, so I want to say real quick, and I want to list off as many reasons as I can, really fast.
Mhm.
Why, or I'm sorry, what would help? What would help with this problem? With this problem with conspiracy theories mostly, and just all these crazy beliefs that we have in our country. It just keeps boiling back down to the same thing for me. One, we need to fix democracy so that the things that both sides agree on, like money in politics needs to be gone, gets out of politics, because then we immediately get more things that we need. So money in politics is one of the biggest things we need to get out of our politics. The other top thing, obviously, is Medicare for all. But then the other top thing, and these are all at the same time because they're also equally important, because lives are at risk for the Medicare for all part, and we're not going to get any change without the other two. So we have money out of politics, Medicare for all, and the last one, and I can't believe I'm putting my own thing forward as one of the top 3 issues, is we need a fucking wealth cap. Bill Gates can't do what he does if he maxes out at 50 million, 100 million, what the fuck ever. And maybe every corporation can have a max of 1 billion. And hold on, 1 billion doesn't sound like a lot for a corporation, but remember how much 999 million is. Numbers trick us the way that we count them. Okay. So I think that's the top three. Money out of politics, money out of normal individuals' hands, because there's a wealth cap. I'm even okay with, and I've never said this on the show before because I hadn't quite come up with it. How do you fucking do that? I think you completely isolate the country for like 1 month. No trading in or out. You're not allowed to transfer funds even to another bank. Go a little authoritarian. And you say, after this 1 month of isolation, anyone who has more than, again, kind of arbitrary number, $50 million, anyone who has more than that, it goes straight to the government. We are just stealing it. Mm-hmm. But in that last month,
just higher.
In this month, yeah. In that last month, this month, I mean, you can give it to whoever you fucking want.
Nice.
Each of your kids, your parents, your kids' kids, your aunts and cousins, your best friend. You can give them half of your money to just, we don't give it. We don't give a shit who you give it to. But you can't have more than 50 million anymore. Because, I mean, you can pretty much live a lifetime on $50 million. And you know what? We believe in a meritocracy. And if people aren't saving any pennies after $50 million, guess where that money goes? Back into the economy. And it fixes so many of our problems. And if you, again, this isn't a one-time deal. This is a wealth cap for fucking good. So no matter what, if anyone hits that, like that last cent that brings them to $50 million, all 100% goes straight to the government, goes back into the
$500 million would be the cap I put it at.
You're so much nicer than me, Christy.
And how bigger businesses and like law firms that have 4 names, like what they use in like a 6-month period coming in and out. I just, so.
That's why I put businesses can do billion, but individuals can have 50 million. That's
what the individual was for.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So
that way they want to keep earning.
Yeah.
Because they actually like holler, make some money, but then what they actually can give back will be a lot more. If you put it so low, we're not going to get, people will do everything offshore.
Yeah. And that's why I said you have to completely isolate the country. And like, you can't do any bank transfers or anything. Like, you can't trade outside of the country because 1, we need jobs back in America. 2, if you're trying to take money out of America and you're an American out of our economy, like
I never see that happen.
No, I don't see it either. But thinking like this and conversation like this can, hopefully pull the Overton window over a little bit.
That's what what's his name? The drunk guy that was always by Trump, went to jail, big nose. He wanted to isolate the country as well. Steve Bannon, he wanted it to be a completely isolationist, do everything
and I hate that. I really do hate that. It's just, I don't see any other way to actually fix that problem except make sure they can't transfer money out. And you have to pull a super dictator move. And I hate that. And also, I thought, just for fun, any problem where like you need to like take, let's say we have another war on terror situation, like 9/11 kind of thing. I think it should be and the on the books, like if you need to pull some cards like NSA spying or something like that or whatever, we give the government power to do that, but for as long as as you do it. After 90 days of every single action, any classified documents are now public information.
All
So that
right.
means you need to move fucking fast, because if you don't want that information getting out because you're still going, then you should have worked faster, because we have the right to know what the fuck our government's doing. And if you need to be secretive, then you need to be fucking fast about it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's my thoughts on how to fix the world. Thanks for watching. Good night.
We love you guys. We do. We do.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Happy New Year 2022. There's a lot of news going on. You guys know how to reach us on Discord, on Twitter, on Facebook. If you leave a message that you want to contact myself, just make sure that you put my name. If I don't see it, somebody in our league will see it and say, hey, Christy, here's a message, or they'll screenshot it and send it to me. Same with Mac. If you guys have amazing ideas for someone who wants to come on, or if you yourself have, been with us for a while or just found us and feel like you want to come on and have, or add to or bring something to the conversation. This is not a debate channel, although Mac has his own channel who would love to debate you. This is a humanist channel where we can discuss, even heatedly, many topics, and we look forward to having you if that's something you want to do. There's no special way to make that happen. I just have had a couple of people ask me in the last couple of weeks. The way to go about it would be the way your mind thinks of. If your mind says, let me Facebook Messenger, I'm going to answer. If it's Twitter, Mac or Nacho's going to answer. If it's Discord,
totally
not just Smitty, Cheshire, I'm sure someone's going to we will know. If we have not messaged you back right away and you happen to catch us on a live chat, make sure that you let us know, hey, check your, and we will. We are not ignoring you. We all live lives as well. And we also care about you guys as much and would love to see what you have to bring. So if that is you and you're trying to get on or know somebody who you'd like to see, please don't be afraid to share that with us. And on top of that, happy 2022. Mr. Bean actually got cuter. I know, like, how is that even possible? It's scientifically not possible, but he did. He did. And stay humanist for godless sakes.
Stay humanist for godless sake.